This is the Vivo X80. This is the 2022's Vivo's flagship, at least for Bangladesh. So this phone right here is the 2022 flagship of Vivo, which is known as Vivo X80. There is a Pro version of this, which is the actual flagship of Vivo, but that's not available in my country, that means in Bangladesh. So this is going to be the 2022 flagship of Vivo for Bangladesh. In this video, we're going to take a review of this thing. How does actually it performs in real life? Before we start our video, let's give a quick shout out to our today's sponsor, Mars2. Mars2 is a group of smartphone shops located at the 3rd floor of Satarkhan complex in Kumilla. No matter which smartphone you need, they have all of the brands covered. You can buy your desired smartphone from them at a fair price. Details about them are in the description below. Okay, before we jump into the review, I would like to unbox this thing because there is something special going on in the unboxing. So let's have a look at that.
So this is a fake unboxing, obviously, because I have already opened the box. So if you open the box, the first thing you will get is the phone, which is the most expected thing. After that, you get two other boxes inside the box. Boxes inside the box. So in the first box, you will get a TPO case, which is a nice edition, along with some booklets and other stuffs, and a SIM ejector tool. On the other box, the first thing you will get is a power adapter. So much wanted stuff. And it is a 80 watt fast charger which charges the smartphone very rapidly. On the other side of the compartment, we get a USB-C cable, and look at this. What is it? They have also included a USB-C earphones with extra ear tips. Can you just imagine? This is where Vivo wins, okay? So in the box content, there is full of stuffs, and I really want to give a hand to Vivo for this thing. Highly appreciated.
So this is a very hyped up smartphone from Vivo, and they have worked with Zeiss to improve their camera technologies this year. Obviously, Vivo X70 also had that Zeiss optics. In this phone, they have used the Zeiss T-Star coated lenses, and in the software, there is also some improvements. First, let's talk about the design and aesthetics of this device. I'm really very mesmerized at the beauty of this device. Vivo is already known for making beautiful smartphone, but this is also a pretty good performer. On the hand, this phone really feels a very premium handset, and this thing actually a premium handset. On the back, we have the frosted glass back, which looks really very good and gives a good feeling on the hand, and it's not a fingerprint magnet, so that's a bonus. The frame is made of aluminium, and they have just color matched the frame with the body. On the front, we have a massive 6.78 inch AMOLED display, which is a 1080p display of 9:20 aspect ratio, and it has a peak brightness of 1500 nits. And yes, the display also supports the 120Hz refresh rate. On the back, the camera bump is really placed very intelligently, I would say. The camera bump really looks very good, and they have set 3 cameras, one wide, the standard wide, the ultra wide, and the telephoto. They have set a 2x optical telephoto lens here, but I would like to see 3x or anything more than that. So best of 3 worlds in this thing. Now, if we talk more about the design, the button placement is at the sweet spot. Like, anyone can reach this button. They are tactile, they feel good to hand. Now, if you look at the fingerprint, it's actually positioned pretty odd. It's almost leaning to the downwards of the skin, so I would like to see a little bit above that place. So that's the down point. Now on the top, we have a huge antenna grill which says professional photography, and a IR blaster. On the bottom, we have the speaker, the USB-C, the microphone, and the SIM slot. And on the right, we have those useful buttons, nothing special. Now, if you look at the phone, you'll be noticing antenna bands everywhere. It's a 5G phone, so antenna band is a very important stuff for this. The display is a 1080p display. It's quite tech sharp, and the brightness is 1500 nits, so no complaints about that. And it's also support 120Hz refresh rate, so there will be a buttery smoother experience with the display. No complaints about that. Daylight readability is quite good on this thing. I have tested in broad daylight, and I didn't had any issue with daylight readability. Under the hood, this thing packs up the MediaTek Dimensity 9000, which has a 4nm architecture, and this is a very efficient and powerful chipset. I really love this thing. Now, on the day-to-day tasks, anything you throw at it, it can do it just smoothly and fluently. Now, you can play almost every game in this phone, along with some heavy demanding games, because it's a flagship and it actually performs like a flagship. I really like this thing. Now, there are a lot of storage variants available for this phone. Now let's start talking about the cameras. There are best of 3 worlds camera on this phone. The wide, the standard wide, the ultra wide, and the telephoto mentioned earlier. The standard wide is actually a 50 megapixel sensor, and the rest 2 are 12 megapixel. The main shooter does have OIS, but it actually don't work work while you are recording a video. I don't know why this thing happened, but the OIS is only in the main camera and it don't work while you are recording video. In terms of video, the stabilization is done electronically. I mean electronic image stabilization. So there will be a little bit of crop you'll be finding on there. Now all three cameras perform really good, and if you're looking at the image samples, you will be seeing that there is a bit of oversaturation going on, and there is some slightly color shift than the natural one, which is really not very pleasing to eye. But they have set a new feature which is called the Zeiss color tone. When you enable this thing, all the colors you are getting out of the camera is actually the true natural color. What actually your eyes are seeing is been depicted on this picture. I don't know why they have set this feature, and this doesn't make any sense because you can already set the natural color as the default setting. Why to set an extra feature? I don't know. Some people may prefer the oversaturated photos, so that's there. Okay. Now image samples coming out of all three cameras are really very good. I'm really quite impressed with the image samples. Let's take a look at the image samples right there.
So the first thing you'll notice about the image samples are the image samples coming out of this smartphone looks really great. It can actually handle dynamic range pretty well, and the colors on these things are saturated and it looks good somehow. There is also an option called the Zeiss True Color, and it actually helps in producing natural color tone in the images. Like you can see, it reduces the saturation down and makes the image as it was looking in naked eyes. So that's a really very great addition to this thing. Now there is a whole lot of camera features in this phone, and we'll be talking about that in the in-depth camera review, which will be loading soon. Stay tuned for that. But as far as you can see, the image samples coming out of this phone is actually true flagship like, so no complaints about that. One thing I'm disappointed about is the portrait mode. The portrait mode isn't that great, and the images coming out of it looks okay, but if you look at the edges, the edge detection is not that great obviously, and that's why the portrait shot don't look that great. So that is why I'm not actually recommending the portrait mode of this phone, because there is some issues with the software. The telephoto camera does helps a little bit. It's a 12 megapixel sensor, and the images coming out of it are good. It will give you an extra reach out there. Selfies coming out of this phone is also really great, and I really like how they rendered the image, so no complaints about that. And yes, Vivo has used their own image signal processor, which is the V1 Plus chip, and this one is the more improved version of the previous year's V1 chip. That helps rendering better images. Now you can actually record 4K videos up to 60 FPS on this Vivo X80, and the image is more stabilized, and as you can expect, the images are really good coming out of this phone. Now one thing you'll certainly notice that the stabilization on this phone is really great. Although it doesn't provide the optical image stabilization for videos, but the electronic image stabilization does a great job in terms of stabilizing the footage. I'm really impressed about the stabilization of this camera system.
There is a special feature in the video stabilization which is called the horizon line. I don't know how do they achieve that, but if you enable this thing, you can turn the phone anywhere you want, but the image will stay as it was. If you don't believe me, just take a sample. This thing was revolutionary, but hey, who does use that? Because there will be a lot of cropping, and the resolution is not that great in this mode, so quite unusable. Just a gimmicky features, but hey, it's there. I'm going to make a dedicated camera review of this phone. If you want to see that, hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon to get notified when it gets out. Now, in terms of SIM support, it actually supports 2 SIM cards, but there is no SD card support, which is a bummer for me. But there is a plenty of storage available for this phone, so you can't actually complain about the SD card availability or so. And yeah, the storage is UFS 3.1, so very fast, very quick. Thumbs up for that. Now we have already talked about the MediaTek Dimensity 9000 in it, and it's really very powerful and efficient chipset, and it has actually made a quite impressive score on Geekbench 5. Let's have a look at that. So I'm really very impressed how the Dimensity 9000 performs in this phone. I didn't actually tested some games on this because I'm not a gamer and I don't actually game that much, so I'm sorry for that if you're into that, but it can actually handle all of the games you can desire. So this flagship checks all the marks except for the USB port. The USB port is not USB 3, it's actually 2, but most of the cases it's just okay, because like if you are not transferring data, it doesn't mean anything, so that's good. On the battery side, it packs up a 4500 milliamperes battery, which actually does quite a good job because the chipset is quite efficient. The MediaTek Dimensity 9000 is quite efficient on this phone, so it can roughly run you about 4 to 5 hours of screen on time, though the screen is pretty bright and it supports 120 Hz. It manages that around 4 hours. Now in the box, this thing packs up a 80-watt fast charger, which actually charges up the phone up to 50% within 11 minutes. That's actually ridiculous. So hey, and the charger comes inside the box. So there's a huge thumbs up for Vivo setting up the charger in the box. You are really welcome for that. And this fast charger really helps while you need early charges. So after everything, what is my final verdict about this phone? This is a really very powerful flagship from Vivo. Yes, it's recommendable. Like if you know Mr. Who is the Boss, he has actually claimed that the Android's camera is better than the iOS in the conversation with MKBHD. So he actually mentioned the Vivo X80 series because the Zeiss true color tone is actually cherry on top. So that's a very welcome feature. And yes, the color actually looks totally natural. What you are actually watching on naked eye is just depicted on these pictures. So that's revolutionary. Is this a photography centric camera? Yes, obviously. It's also a videography centric camera. There's a whole lot of Easter eggs and features inside the camera app, and the camera can do really pretty well even in low light and daylight, obviously. So for the camera sector, I would like to give a thumbs up, and this thing is really recommendable. But most of the people, when they reach this price, they actually don't consider any Chinese company like this Vivo. But this thing actually has the credibility to get in your pocket. Now, one thing I would say about this, that the battery backup is not that great. So if you are looking for a better battery backup, I would say this is not your phone. But they have packed up a 80-watt fast charger in the box that will charge the entire phone in minutes. So there should not be any complaint about those things. So this was the video. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. See you soon with some interesting videos. Till then, stay good, keep good, and keep doing incredible things. And yes, of course, keep watching. Enjoy the video.